UFC Fight Night Houston takes place this weekend, main eventing Sean Strickland versus Fluffyhernandez, and in our co-main event we have Geoff Neal versus Uros Medic. This is right after a week hiatus, but thankfully we're going to have a couple UFC events coming up in the following weeks. But before we get into any of that, let's break down this card. So first fight of the night, we got Juliana Miller versus Carly Judice. Now, Juliana Miller, man, this chick is bottom of the barrel, honestly. I don't know how she made it into the Contender Series. I don't know how she won the Contender Series. This chick is mid. She's nothing special, man. And ever since she got into the UFC, she hasn't improved. She's 29. She should be in her peak. And she hasn't shown improvements ever since joining the organization. Meanwhile, Carly Judice, this chick is improving every day. And every time she steps into the octagon, she's looking better and better. She's a younger fighter, and she's a hungrier fighter from the looks of it. Juliana Miller is not fighting as frequently as Carly Judice, and she's also got like a little cushy job as a little commentator. And not only that, a lot of people think that this chick is attractive. She's not attractive, man. She's got a lot of simps, and I think that's the only reason why people root for her or like her. But yeah, she's shown no improvement ever since joining the organization, and she's always been bottom of the barrel. So you have to go with Carly Judice to win this fight. She's the better fighter, the younger fighter, the hungrier fighter, and I think this fight's going to definitely go to decision, and I think it's going to be unanimously. I think it's going to be a 30-27 on the side of Carly Judice. So give me Carly Judice to win by decision. Alright, up next we got... Let's see. We have Jordan Levitt versus Yadir Del Valle. So, we all know what Jordan Levitt wants to do, and he's a specialist. He's a BJJ specialist. He wants to take you to the ground and submit you. And that's all he's good for, man. He's not really good on the feet, and he hasn't shown improvements on the feet. This type of fighter is dying in the UFC, man. The UFC is the upper echelon of MMA, and we've seen that a fighter that has one specialty or is only good at one thing always tends to fail. Now with Yadir Del Valle, this guy comes in with heavy pressure, and he's going to come in with right hooks, left hooks. The only problem I see with Yadir Del Valle is that he tends to gas in the later rounds. So this can come into Jordan Levitt's favor. If Jordan Levitt's able to survive rounds 1 and 2, he might have a gassed out Del Valle in round 3, maybe in the tail end of round 2, and he might be able to do his thing, take Del Valle to the ground and submit him because he's tired. But I can't bank on Del Valle to get tired. I can't put all my chips in Del Valle to become tired and Jordan Levitt to get that win like that. I think that Del Valle is the better fighter. He should be able to get Jordan Levitt out of there, maybe in the later rounds 2, 3. But even if he doesn't, he'll most likely win rounds 1 and round 2. Jordan Levitt is not going to be able to hold his own on the feet, and that's where Del Valle is going to do his thing. Del Valle is going to be smart enough to defend any takedowns that Levitt does shoot and just keep the fight where he wants it. So give me Del Valle to win by decision, maybe a late finish for Del Valle, but don't be surprised if Levitt pulls something out of his hat and gets a late round submission. Like I said, Del Valle does tend to gas later in the rounds, but you can't bank on that, man. You can't. You have to pick the better fighter. And in this case, it's going to be Del Valle. So give me Del Valle to win by decision. Alright, moving up. We've got Phil Rowe versus Jean Paul. I don't know how to pronounce that last name, so we're just going to call him Jean Paul. So Phil Rowe is very technical. He likes to keep his distance and pick his shots. He has a lot of power in his punches, and he's going up against a UFC debutant in Jean Paul. Now, Jean Paul is making his UFC debut against not the bottom of the barrel. Phil Rowe is decent competition. He'll never be top 15 or anything like that, but he is a good fighter. And as a UFC debut, this is a big test for Jean Paul. Now, Jean Paul loves to throw head kicks, but I don't see that happening at all in this fight just because of Phil Rowe being 6'3". That's not going to happen. And definitely because Jean Paul is 5'11". He's a shorter guy by 4 inches. He also has the lower reach in about 9 inches. And that's a big difference, man. That's a big difference. We all know that the longer reach fighter tends to win in the fight. And honestly, because of all that, because Phil Rowe's more technical, because he likes to keep his distance, and he's just a more lengthier guy, I do have to go with Phil Rowe to win. I think it's going to be too much too soon for Jean Paul. Jean Paul is a really good prospect, and you guys have to keep an eye out on him. He's really good, but I think it's going to be too much for him. I think Phil Rowe is going to be able to win this by keeping his distance, peppering up Jean Paul, and picking his shots from the outside. So give me Phil Rowe to win by decision. I think most of the fights in the prelims, especially the first ones, are going to go to decision. So I have to go with Phil Rowe to win by decision. But like I said, Jean Paul, good prospect to keep an eye out. And yeah, so Phil Rowe to win by decision. Moving up, we've got Ramiz Brahimov versus Puniele Soriano. So Puniele Soriano, he's coming in with heavy pressure. He's looking to put your lights out, man. This guy's not a really good grappler. He's just trying to have a slugfest, man. And he also tends to gas out in the later rounds. Meanwhile, he has a guy in Ramiz Brahimov who is a really good wrestler. And overall, he's a very, very well-rounded fighter. Now, Ramiz Brahimov's plan should be to take down Soriano to the ground. Like I said, Soriano's takedown defense is around 40-45%, and so is Brahimov's, but he shouldn't have to worry about any of that because, like I said, Soriano's not going to be looking to take this fight to the ground. He's going to want to keep the fight on the feet and take Ramiz's head off. But, like I said, if Brahimov is smart, he's going to take down Soriano and do his thing on the ground. Now, Soriano doesn't have a really good get-up game, so Brahimov is going to be able to take him down, hold him there, and do his thing. He's going to be able to land some ground and pound and look for submissions. Now, Brahimov isn't one of those fighters that's just going to lay and pray. He's going to look for that finish. So if he does take down Soriano, he's going to look for those submissions or ground and pound. Now, as for Soriano, like I said, he has to defend the takedown, which I don't think that's going to happen. But if he's able to defend the takedown, this fight is going to be more of a 50-50. Both fighters are really good on the feet, and Soriano tends to be more of a boxer, and Brahimov's more of a kickboxer. So if this fight does stay on the feet, I also favor Brahimov, just because if the fight gets a little sloppy in the boxing range, Brahimov's going to be able to circle around and pick his shots, throw in some body kicks, some leg kicks, maybe some head kicks. He's just going to use his legs a lot more if it gets messy close range. So, overall, I have to go with Ramiz Brahimov to win. He's the better wrestler, better striking, and like I said earlier, Soriano's very, very one-dimensional. He's just looking to put your lights out. And this is the UFC, man. This is the top of MMA. You can't just be one-dimensional. So give me Ramiz Brahimov to win by decision, another decision, but don't be surprised if he does get a finish late in the rounds. Like I said, Soriano tends to gas. So give me Ramiz Brahimov to win by decision. Alright, boys, and next up we've got Nora Cornell versus Jocelyn Edwards. Let's see. Alright. So Nora Cornell likes to keep the fight on the feet. She's looking to slug it out with you. She doesn't have KOs, don't expect a KO, but she's just trying to brawl with you. She has okay submissions, but she struggles to get back on her feet. Meanwhile, Jocelyn Edwards, compared to Nora Cornell, she's very, very good. She's very well-rounded. She's able to take you down and submit you. She'll throw some ground and pound. Remember, guys, this is WMMA. You don't see that many finishes, and with these two girls, you're not going to see a finish. This is 100% going to go to decision, but you have to go with Jocelyn Edwards. Like I said, she's going to be the more technical fighter. She's going to want to keep the fight on the feet. She's going to want to be very technical, circle around Nora, and pick her shots. Nora's going to come in wild, man. She's going to come in looking to brawl, and Jocelyn Edwards isn't really into that. She's not really going to be doing that. She'll engage maybe for 1 or 2 moments, but that's not going to be the fight. She's not going to be in the pocket just slugging it out. She's going to be in there, then circle out, maybe throw a body kick here or there, and look for the takedown. I think that Jocelyn Edwards most likely is going to take down Nora Cornell and just kill the clock. And we saw that happen to Nora, where she got taken down and she let the time pass by. She wasn't able to get back on her feet, and that's what's going to happen to her most likely against Jocelyn Edwards. I see Jocelyn Edwards piecing her up on the feet and taking her down as she pleases, and just laying on her and killing that clock. I think the clock's going to be Nora's worst enemy in this fight, not even Jocelyn Edwards, because once Nora is on the ground, she doesn't try to get up, man. So you have to go with Jocelyn Edwards. She's the better fighter. She has that wrestling in her back pocket if she does want to take Nora down, and she's a more well-rounded fighter overall. So give me Jocelyn Edwards to win by decision, another decision in this prelim, and yeah, let's move on. All right, moving up into the card, we've got Alden Correa versus Luis Gouroulet. So Alden Correa, this guy is really good. He's primarily a wrestler, but he has good stand-up. And he's going up against a guy in Luis Gouroulet. And this guy's a big, heavy puncher. He's looking for that one-punch KO. And he's not really looking to counter you. He's just looking for that opening. And if your stand-up is really good, he's not going to get that opening. But, yeah, meanwhile, Alden Correa, he's looking to take you down. I think he is going to be able to do that against Gouroulet. Correa is a Correa is a prospect you guys should be looking at. He's really good. He's 27. He hasn't hit his prime yet, but like I said, he's really good. He's been working on his stand-up, and he has some sneaky KO power. But what I think is going to win him this match is his wrestling. I think he's going to be able to take down Gouroulet and work him on the ground. In my opinion, he's a more well-rounded fighter. Like I said, Gouroulet is just looking for that KO punch, and he just doesn't throw that much. He doesn't throw that often. So I have to go with Alden Correa to win. I think this fight's going to go to decision, but don't be surprised if there's a finish. I think that if there is a finish, the finish would come in round 2 or 3. But I have to go with Alden Correa to win by decision. Next up, we've got Ode Osborne versus Alibi. I can't even pronounce that last name, man. We're just going to call him Alibi. But yeah, okay, so we know what Ode Osborne wants to do. He's never going to be the top 15. He's not that good of a fighter. And he does have some holes like his grappling, which is a major issue. But if this fight stays on the feet, this fight can go 50-50, maybe 60-40 in favoring Ode Osborne, because his striking is pretty good. We got to remember that fight against Steve Erceg where he did piece up Erceg, and look at Erceg, he almost won that belt. He could have been UFC champion. We got to keep that in mind. Meanwhile, Alibi, we all know how good he is. He's from Kazakhstan. Most of the fighters from Kazakhstan are very well rounded, and it doesn't exclude Alibi. Alibi is really good. The only bad part about Alibi is that he doesn't use his wrestling that often, and I think he needs to use his wrestling in this fight because, like I said, Ode Osborne is really good on the feet, but his takedown defense is struggling. And if Alibi is able to take down Ode Osborne to the ground, I think he's going to win this fight easily. But if this fight stays on the feet, this is a 50-50, 60-40. Anyone can win this fight, and you would have to favor Ode Osborne, in my opinion. But overall, I have to go with the more well-rounded fighter. I have to go with the better fighter, in my opinion. And maybe this might be a little biased, but I don't hold Ode Osborne that highly. I don't think he's a really good fighter, in my opinion. So I'm going to have to pick Alibi to win. I think he'll look at some tape. He'll see that Ode Osborne's takedown defense isn't that good and take him down and do his thing on the ground. And he's going to have Ode Osborne thinking if he's going to take him down or if he's going to strike. He's going to be able to strike a lot easier because Ode Osborne's going to be thinking about that takedown. So I have to go with Alibi to win. I think he's going to win by decision. So Alibi by decision. Next up, we have Chidi and Njokuani versus Carlos Leal. We're just going to call him Chidi because, make it easy. But Chidi is a very well-rounded fighter. He has good leg kicks. He loves to use his leg kicks a lot. And he has a really, really good one, too. Meanwhile, he's going up against Carlos Leal, who just got KO'd in his last fight against a 40-year-old. And that's not a good look. That chin is questionable now. We got to keep that in mind. And we also got to keep in mind that this guy has pop for steroids. And, after you stop using steroids, your body starts breaking down. And that can be a downfall for Carlos Leal. That it weakens your chin, and you're just not the fighter that you used to be. All that being said, I think Chidi will win this fight. I think he'll be able to implement his leg kicks. Carlos Leal has a wide stance, and those leg kicks from Chidi are going to be able to break down Carlos Leal and break his movement. It'll open up Carlos' guard. He doesn't have really good head movement, and he's kind of just there taking punches. So with all that, like I said, I think Chidi is going to win with the leg kicks, breaking down Carlos, his movement. And I think the opening is going to be there for Chidi to get a KO. And I think this is going to be the first finish of the card. I have to go with Chidi and Njokuani to win by KO in round 2. I think he'll be able to do that. And I think he's a dog too, so there's that. So give me Chidi and Njokuani to win by KO in round 2. Next up, boys. I think, yeah, that was the main event for the prelims. Moving up into the main card, boys, we've got Zach Reese versus Michelle Pereira. All right, guys. So we're finally seeing Zach Reese kind of get a step up in his career. He's always been fighting the bottom of the barrel of the middleweight division, and this is going to be his little step up. We've seen some improvement in his game. He's primarily a wrestler, but his stand-up has been worked on. Meanwhile, Michelle Pereira, man, I know we all thought this guy was going to be something in the middleweight division after moving up. But this guy hasn't been able to secure a win in the last 2 years. He's been gassing out and just looked horrible. He's 32 years old, but he fights like he's 45. He fights like Stipe. This guy's career is over, in my opinion, and I think this is going to be easy work for Zach Reese. I think Zach Reese is going to be able to take down Michelle Pereira and just work him and gas him out in round one. Come round two, Michelle Pereira is not going to have anything in the tank. He's just going to sit there and take it from Zach Reese. And Zach Reese can win by any means necessary. He can win by KO, submission, or decision. And it's sad, man, because I thought Michelle Pereira was going to be something, but Fluffy, the guy that's main eventing this event, took his soul, man. When they first fought, he took his soul. So, yeah, Michelle Pereira, I think this guy needs to be cut if he does lose after this, because he hasn't won in 2 years. I think his career's over, and I think they're just feeding him to Zach Reese. I think Zach Reese is going to be able to win this fight fairly easily, and I think he's going to win by submission in round two. So give me Zach Reese to win by submission in round two, gassing out Michelle Pereira in round one, and getting that submission in round two. And honestly, man, I would not be surprised if they cut Michelle Pereira after this, because he hasn't put in a good day in the office. So we'll see. But yeah, Zach Reese submission. Next up, we've got Jacoby Smith. Now, Jacoby Smith, we all know who he is. He's coming in with big power, man. This guy's looking to KO you and has that heavy pressure. Meanwhile, he's going up against Josiah Harrell. I think it's Harrell. And they're both 11-1. So they're both undefeated. But I will say this. I don't know anything about Josiah Harrell, man. Nothing. I have no clue who he is. And honestly, I wanted to be surprised. I didn't want to do any research just because they're both undefeated. I am high on Jacob Smith. So this should be a really fun fight. And I think there should be a finish in this fight. But with all that being said, I am going to have to flip a coin. I have a coin right here, so let's see. All right, boys. Got heads for Jacoby Smith, head. Tail for Josiah. We're going to flip this one, and whatever it lands on, that's going to be our pick. Flip. Okay. We've got heads, boys, heads. So our pick's going to be Jacoby Smith. I'm going to say Jacoby Smith wins by KO in round two. I think it's going to be too much for Josiah Harrell. I think the lights are going to be too bright for him. And yeah, give me Jacoby Smith to win by KO in round two. And next up, we've got Sergey Spivak versus Ante Delea. Alright, boys. So, Sergey Spivak, another specialist. This guy wants to take you down and submit you, or just work you. He doesn't really land ground and pound. He just lays on you and is looking for that opening for that submission. And meanwhile, he's going up against Ante Delea. Now, Ante Delea, we just saw him fight against Waldo Cortez Acosta in a very weird fight, in where Delea kind of got a KO, but then it got reversed, and then they fought, and then Waldo was able to KO him. So we just saw that. But we got to remember, boys, Delea is really, really good in his stand-up, and his takedown defense is okay. I think he'll be able to stuff Spivak's takedowns. And we also got to remember, boys, that Delea is fighting in Tom Aspinall's camp, and Aspinall has fought Sergey Spivak. So Tom Aspinall might be able to give some pointers to Delea to be able to win this fight. So with all that being said, I think Delea should be able to win by KO in round two, early round two, in my opinion. I think that he'll be able to stuff Spivak's takedowns and piece him up on the feet, and all that stuff, and all those takedowns that he does stuff is going to tire out Spivak. And we've seen Spivak's stand up, and it's not all there, man. And he hasn't been improving either. He's been in the UFC for a minute, and we haven't seen improvement. All he wants to do is take you down. So give me DeLeo to win by KO in early round 2. And yeah, I don't know where Spivak goes from here, but yeah, give me DeLeo to win by KO in round 2. And yeah, let's move on, boys. Next up, we've got Dan Ige versus Milky Costa. All right. All right, so we all know what Dan Ige wants to do. He wants to keep it on the feet, and he wants to piece you up. But he's a very well-rounded fighter. He can take you down, and he can control you and land some nasty ground and pound, that which we saw when he fought against Diego Lopez in round, I think it was round 3, maybe it was round 5. I don't remember quite right. But in the last round, he was able to posture up and land some nasty ground and pound when Diego Lopez was tired. So we know that Dan Ige is very well rounded, but so is his competition in Milky Costa. Now Milky Costa is a raging prospect. He's very good on the feet. He wants to keep it on the feet, but he can take you down, and he has good submissions on the ground. We saw him KO Morgan Charrier in his last fight, in a fight that I had Morgan Charrier, and I was very, very surprised in Milky's KO because I thought that fight was going to go to the distance. But Milky has been improving. We've seen that ever since he joined the UFC. His stand-up is on par. His grappling is on par. And he's just really, really good. And he's the younger fighter. He's the more hungrier fighter. And because of all that, I have to go with Milky Costa. I don't think Dan Ige is over the road. I think he's still there. But he's a guy that's been there, done that. And when you're going up against a guy that wants that, or where you're at, you're going to see him with that hunger. So I think that Milky's going to be able to outstrike Dan Ige, and if he wants to take him down, Ige's not going to be looking to take Milky to the ground, but Milky will be looking to do that. He's going to mix everything up. So for all of those reasons, I have to go Milky Costa to win. I think he's going to win a decision. This fight's really, really good. It's a very technical fight, very high-level fight. But I have to go with Milky Costa to win by decision. Alright, boys. We've got Geoff Neal versus Uros Medic. Now, this fight is definitely not going to decision. There's going to be a finish, and I think there's going to be a KO finish. Because Uros Medic, this guy's really good, but he's really good with the bottom of the barrel. Every time he gets that step up in competition, he tends to fail. And this is just that. He beat up a guy bottom of the barrel, and they're giving him a guy in Geoff Neal. Now, Geoff Neal, we know who he is. He's fought in the upper echelon of the welterweight division. He's always going to be top 10. I don't think he'll be top 5, but he'll always be top 10. And this guy's good, man. And in his last bout, he did get KO'd by Carlos Prates, but that's going to happen. That's bound to happen to anybody, especially with a spinning elbow, and especially getting caught by a spinning elbow in the case of Geoff Neal. So that's nothing to downgrade Geoff Neal, you know. That's bound to happen. And like I said, Geoff Neal has fought the better competition, and he's a more well-rounded fighter. If it gets nasty on the feet, he will take down Uros Medic, and I don't see Medic defending those takedowns. I think Geoff Neal is the better fighter, 100%, and we also got to remember that every time that Uros Medic does take that leap forward, he always gets KO'd. His chin is very questionable, and with going against a guy in Hands of Steel, Geoff Neal, I think that that's an easy KO win for Geoff Neal. I think that Geoff Neal is going to get this KO in round 1, maybe early round 2. Like I said, you can't trust Medic's chin, and every time he gets that step up in competition, he always fails. So give me Geoff Neal to win by KO in round 1 or round 2. Uros Medic is going to come in with heavy pressure and want to brawl with Geoff Neal, and that's going to be a big mistake. And I think Geoff Neal is going to be able to circle out of anything that Medic throws and land his own. So give me Geoff Neal to win by KO in round 1 or round 2. Alright, boys. And for the main event, we got Sean Strickland versus Anthony Hernandez. Alright. Man, what can I say about this fight? This is a really good fight. I know some people are going to have Sean Strickland. Me personally, I like Sean Strickland. I like his banter. The only thing I don't like is when he says, "We're going to die for you guys. We're going to go to war." And then just jabs and teats. Jabs and teats for 15, 25 minutes. That's the only thing I don't like. But besides that, I think he's funny. I like him. But him going up against a guy in Anthony Hernandez, man, I don't favor him at all. I don't think the odds should be as skewed as they are. I think this is a closer fight than the odd makers have it, but I do have Anthony Hernandez winning. And that's just because Sean Strickland hasn't fought a guy in Anthony Hernandez. Everyone that he does fight tends to fight the battle that Sean Strickland tends to give. They don't really come in with pressure. They don't land as much. And the only guy that I can say that's kind of similar to Anthony Hernandez is Dricus du Plessis. And we saw that in the fight against Dricus du Plessis that Sean Strickland was, I wouldn't say he got tired, but he was kind of slowing down in the later rounds, like in round 4 and 5. He wasn't throwing as much, and he was just kind of more there than anything else. And with him going up against a guy, Anthony Hernandez, that always brings in that pressure, that's always looking for that takedown, I think that's going to be a big issue with Sean Strickland. I think he'll be able to stuff those takedowns in round 1, round 2, maybe even round 3. But come in round 4, round 5, don't be surprised. I'm calling this, but I think he's going to be gassed. I think he's going to be tired from stuffing all those takedowns and all that heavy pressure that Anthony Hernandez brings. Because remember, even if Anthony Hernandez does take Strickland to the ground, he's not just going to lay there. He's going to throw some ground and pound. He's going to look for those submissions. And he's just trying to get a finish. And Sean Strickland hasn't dealt with adversity like that, in my opinion. So I think this is an easy win for Anthony Hernandez. Like I said, I think the lines are kind of skewed. I think if you really wanted to, you can touch the plus 5.5 on Sean Strickland. I think that should be pretty secured. But I have to go with Anthony Hernandez. I think he's going to get a finish in round 4 or 5. So give me Anthony Hernandez to win by KO, TKO in round 4 or 5. I think he's going to be able to do it with a gassed out Sean Strickland, a guy that's been stuffing all the takedowns up until round 4 or 5 just because he's too tired, man. He's not going to be able to withstand anything that Anthony Hernandez brings to the table. So all that, I think he's not going to be able to withstand anything that Anthony Hernandez brings to the table. And I think Anthony Hernandez, after this fight, is going to fight for the belt. I think this fight is for the belt. Whoever does win this fight is fighting for the belt next. So if Sean Strickland wins, he's going to fight for the belt. And if Anthony Hernandez wins, he'll fight for the belt. But I have to favor Anthony Hernandez. We've seen him give heavy pressure. We've seen him have a good gas tank. And he has that grappling, man. We know that Sean Strickland can defend takedowns, but can he defend takedowns for 25 minutes with heavy pressure? We haven't seen that. And we know that Anthony Hernandez can bring it. So I have to go with Anthony Hernandez. Alright, boys, those were my picks and predictions for the whole fight card for UFC Houston. Sean Strickland versus Anthony Hernandez. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know if you guys agree, disagree, or think some of my picks are just plain crazy. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until next time.